What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk about the top 5 most heavily shorted EV stocks in the market as of right now. So I want to go over all the things that you need to know, but first make sure to hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. Side note, I am only going to be looking at stocks that do have a market cap of 100 mil or greater. Any stock less than that, such as this section right here, is just excessive dilution that skews a lot of the numbers, not really any point in covering them. So this is why I'm going to be sticking to stocks that have a 100 mil market cap or greater. Getting right to stock number 5, you have a new one on this list, has never been on, and that is ticker LVWR. So LiveWire sitting at 385. Over the last 1 year, it is down 41.49%, and then over the last roughly 1 month, it is down 7.56%. This is kind of some good information right here that you can always pause. It goes over the volume, market cap, and so forth. But seasonality for pretty much we're heading into September already. It does go down about 18.3% on average over the last 4 years. This is what they do, so feel free to pause it. And I'm only going over this because it's never been on this list before. So I don't know if some people may or may not be aware of it. But aside from that, 11.41% of the free float is being shorted, works out to be 1.35 million shares. So as you can kind of see, shorts have really started to get in with this stock. So they've been very reactive to the stock price. Ultimately, cost to borrow average 126.84%. That is a annual rate, not a daily rate. But one thing to take note of though is even the minimum is 119. So it is fairly up there. Short score, so the higher the number, the higher the likelihood of a squeeze happening, is sitting at 78.97. So definitely fairly interesting. DTC though is 0.87 days. So that does also factor in their average volume in comparison to the number of shares being shorted. So at the end of the day, that kind of does signal the magnitude of a potential squeeze. One thing I always do like to bring up though is the number of shares available to be shorted. So right now there's about 45,000. So you could see some buying going into this upcoming week, as big money loves to buy stock just to lend out. And so cost to borrow average through IPKR is at 85. So yeah, definitely this week you could be seeing some buying. So let me know your viewpoint. One thing as well, a lot of these stocks that I'm going to be talking on have earnings coming up. So potentially that could be a good catalyst. And in some cases, their actual operations, they're starting to really heat up and build some good momentum in among itself. So I feel like big money will be starting to look at EVs in the next little bit. So once again, do with all this information what you will. Moving on to stock number 4, it did get pushed back slightly, but that is NIO, sitting at 638 over the last 1 year, up 61.93%, and then over the last 1 month, up 34.17. This stock right here is a good example that they do have their earnings coming up on September the 2nd during the pre-market. So I'm going to be doing a little bit more of a dedicated video to their earnings and what's to kind of expect. So for those of you that are interested, stay tuned for that. But 11.47% of the free float is being shorted, works out to be 176.99 million shares overall are being shorted. Cost to borrow average, kind of on the low end. On Friday, you do see shorts did increase 1.74 million shares. DTC 2.85 days, so that is fairly high. Generally, you can kind of see though shorts have been returning. So it did have a short interest of about 13-14% in June, went down to 10, back up to 13, and that's where we are now. So shorts do make up on average about 50-55% of the overall volume every single day. So I think shorts and NIO, they go hand in hand. So potentially with their upcoming earnings, they could break away from them, hopefully. Short score 68.33, and then once again through IBKR you do see in excess of 10 million shares. So most likely you won't be seeing any buying just for the purposes of lending out any stock for this week. Moving on from that, so NIO is stock number 4. Moving on to stock number 3, Faraday Future sitting at $2.23 over the last 1 year. It is down 59.38%, and then over the last 1 month it is down 11.34%. This stock was starting to gain some pretty good momentum. Unfortunately, kind of fell short, as you can kind of see from that, but 18.12% of the free floats being shorted, works out to be 25.41 million shares. Cost to borrow average kind of in line with what it has been, so 15.36. Short score 74.57, and then DTC is 1.59. And so shorts generally, from what you can kind of see right here, have been kind of returning. So it did peak, it looks as though, at like 49% in February. Since then, like I said, it's been going down, and by them returning some shares, they've been adding a consistent level of buying pressure, and so probably that's also been helping Faraday's actual stock price really move higher. Through IBKR does indicate about 750,000 shares is available to be shorted. And so you could potentially be seeing some buying just for the purposes of lending it out. So again, another attribute to somewhat pay attention to. So Faraday is stock number 3. Moving on to stock number 2, kind of moved up from position number 3, and that is Rivian, sitting at $13.57 over the last 1 year. It is down 3.69%, so not doing all that bad. Over the last 1 month though, it's pretty much flat. So definitely starting to build up some good momentum over the last 5 days, but still bigger picture, it's still waiting for that good catalyst, which could come from rate cuts on September the 17th. But aside from that, 19.8% of the free floats being shorted, works out to be 157.08 million shares overall are being shorted. Shorts on Friday did return 484,000 shares. Cost to borrow average is very low. Cost to borrow minimum is negative. So of course that could be just errors, or legitimately could be brokers out there physically paying people to short Rivian. So I know I've had some debates with some individuals about that, but generally looking at shorts, so short interest in May was about 15%. So shorts have been really starting to double down. All-time high short interest though is 20.98%. So it is kind of high, so yeah, you never know what could come from that. DTC though does signal that shorts are very overextended, so that's 4.78 days. Through IBKR does indicate 5.1 million shares, so you won't be seeing any buying, because not only is cost to borrow very low and cheap, but there's more than enough shares already there. So Rivian, it is what it is, so it could piggyback off of the broader market, or again do its own thing. And then moving on to the next stock, this one's going to be an interesting one. So Lucid, and this has been number 1 most heavily shorted for a very long time, sitting at $1.98. So this will change next week, because they are going to be doing a reverse stock split effective on Tuesday. But over the last 1 year, it is pretty much down a level 50%. Over the last 1 month, down 23.99%. Even though they did announce a Uber deal, they announced a reverse stock split, and people just generally don't like that, and for obvious reasons. 29.94% of the free floats being shorted, works out to be 375.84 million shares overall are being shorted. Shorts returned on Friday 5.16 million shares, leading into that whole reverse stock split, which is rather interesting and unique. But cost to borrow average 18.01, short score 77.33, and then DTC 2.9. So it does signal that shorts are overextended. All-time high short interest is about 33%, so 33.5. So shorts have been returning a little bit, but you never know, once a reverse stock split does kick in, they could be doubling, tripling down based on that. So it's anyone's guess. Some people, some camps feel like there is going to be a squeeze that does occur post reverse stock split, and then other camps feel like that it will just go down from here. So it's anyone's guess. Through IBKR though, does indicate 1.1 million shares is available to be shorted. So you could potentially be seeing some buying in the next little bit if this does go down, because cost to borrow is okay, so it's at 17.95, and that is through IBKR. So Let me know your thoughts on the top 5 most heavily shorted EVs in the market. Do you own any of them? Do you think any of them possibly are squeeze plays? And if so, which ones? Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. And then one final thing, pop over to my Patreon. I do give buy signals on stocks, options, crypto, many of which have been absolutely on point. Definitely worthwhile to pop over there and take a look. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.